with those frequencies. Am I making any sense?
Yes.
Okay, so to recap, can you give it into another language? Or at least another way to define it?
Coming into human form to some degree is that yang energy, but we can get focused so much on being that human part of us, and then that's when we start getting into the right and wrong factor and the separation and that sort of thing.
So we got talking about ego, and that we realized that ego is electromagnetic guiding omni-apparition. That was what they had finally told me, the source of anything, whether it's angels, guides, in any form. Now, I am supposed to say if you would like to call in because you want a psychic reading, and which is what we call a soul reading, then you can do so. You can have a general reading or you can have a direct question. So it's up to you. And the phone number is 989-945-0287. And you also can find our old programs on Tindeck. And I also put on the YouTubes. It is youtube.com/Medicine Women Reveal. And I do my best to put it up in many different forms for people that are more visual than they are auditory, or some that are both. And we got talking about why, in some degree, it is that yang energy that does the right and wrong. And the right and wrong really seems to be the issue. And it's about how we believe it. That was one of the biggest things that I had to do a path switch by. And it's really a path switch, I don't know how else to explain it, is that as you start to take the journey of the soul, like we all do, every day we get up, we're going to start something new. It is moving from one phase of our life to the next. It is growing and getting more knowledge and information that can allow you to take that next step into becoming more aware, whether it's back to self-realization, to God-realization, or just being more human. It's up to you. We all do the path switch. But if a path switch in the old days, the way that it happened was that we didn't consciously and soulfully participate. We didn't have all of us participate. Literally what would happen is we knew that we needed to learn more dependence, or we needed to learn that we can survive by doing it ourselves, or, you know, we have to some type of growth. Well, it would usually be a car accident, a death, something extremely tragic that forces you to have to play the other role that your soul's been asking you to. But a path switch is simply, if you're paying attention, you will feel your soul pulling you to go into this next adventure, whatever you need to do, whether it's to resolve something, to grow, or to be where you need to be. My first path switch that I consciously, spiritually was aware of was when it came to my friend. And so I call it the friend experience. And what happened was that I was very much an introvert. And as the introvert, I didn't want to really make friends or be anywhere. I was a housewife with 2 children, and I was, married and still am, but you get tired of cleaning the house. You don't have anybody to talk to but wee ones, and then when your husband comes home, he's busy doing what he's got to do because he's got to take care of the farm. Oh, it's 222. When we have all of that, there's nobody else to talk to, and you need to have some sort of a way to relate to the world, a way to have a sounding board, a way to grow. And a lot of people like to be introverted because they have heart walls up, and we'll eventually talk about those too. So as I started to take, and I want some friends, So I asked a question to the universe. I said, I'd like to have more friends, and I'd like to have like-minded people. Well, I had learned about the golden lasso, so I did the golden lasso, brought in, and says, I would like to have more like-minded friends. And you have to be careful when you are asking the universe a question. You got to remember that you first asked the question. 2, when you start getting weird answers back, remember, why is that stuff happening? Because it's probably because you asked a question. And if you understand what a question is, it's a quest. And then the ION is the what, Jen?
We discovered that it's going, when we looked it up on different sources last night, but it's also charged particles, which also It was Faraday who took the Greek definition of going to apply it to the scientific definition of a charged particle.
Yes. So the question, and a lot of times we forget that we are born of a thought, and that we can create our thoughts and we can create our reality. And we just think life happens sometimes and we know how to respond and handle that. Let's go on to back to the daily grind of life where it's work. What else is the daily grind?
Same stuff, different day. You're trained to just, well, the old way, prior, they, excuse me, that's interesting with my voice. They say that, that's interesting, Generation X is the first generation of people that said when they're not happy with a job, that we can actually change it, because prior to that, it was, you go to school, you get a job, you get something that's going to have benefits and a pension, and you stick with it for your whole life. Exactly. With Generation X, they said, well, if I'm not happy, I can leave. Exactly. I don't feel beholden to owe anybody anything. And so that was like the first generation coming through,
right, that
said that. So there's those definitions too.
Yeah, and so there's the daily grind. Or there is, I have, the fun part of life. And that is sometimes you may, some people used to call sin, was that you go out and you drink and you dance and you laugh and you party and you have sex and you do all that. You let loose. But there are different points of when you really need to have a balanced stability in your life, and sometimes well-rounded, from having entertainment to letting loose when you need to, mourn when you have to, be, have friends that you can relate to. And so sometimes you when your spirit wants you to grow, because it'll start nudging you to do something. So, going back to my path switch, was that I finally got over, so I asked for spirit to bring me a friend. Okay. Someone kept calling me once a month. I'm thinking, why in the world is she calling me? Duh, I asked the question. I forgot that. So finally, Spirit says, why aren't you going? You asked, now we're giving, and you need now to receive, because you keep asking. If you only asked once and then it was just, flushed away, no big deal. But I've been asking. And it's like I haven't trained myself to see when it was coming. I just looked at it and says, why is this crazy woman calling me? Crazy woman. I didn't even know who she was. That's how we just label them right off the bat. And she just wanted me to come out and hang out and learn about spirituality and healing and all this. And that's right up my alley. I said like-minded, didn't I? Okay, so finally, what was my excuse or my logical reasoning, which happens to be your barriers? They're not healthy boundaries, they're barriers. And so I said, okay, this is my limitations, these are my inhibitions. All right, I got to really look at this. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go because I'm scared. Well, why don't you heal that? And I'm like, okay, if you want me to heal that, how do you want me to heal that? All I know is Reiki. Am I going to just put my hands on it? That could be. I learned other stuff at that point, learned in depth about the brain and the subconscious mind. And finally I started to use tools. And I went there, and I was scared crapless when I first went. And then after 7 to 10 years, I can't remember how long I was there, I was told. And I didn't quite get the language that Spirit was talking, because I hadn't built that filing cabinet in my head. All I know is that it rushed upon my chest. It was like, okay, you got to stop coming to your friend's house. And I'm like, no. I've gotten quite comfortable. I have a friend. I'm not giving her up, and I feel alive. And it's like, well, we didn't tell you, or it wasn't really a suggestion. It was part of what you have in your soul's path. Right. And I explained before, is that you have a certain, what I call them, checkpoints, milestones that your soul says that it wants to achieve. And if you haven't gotten to that level of achievement, then you even have left a set of instructions that if I don't listen the first time, second time, fifth time, thousandth time, it's going to get from happy to worse.
It's like a backup plan, like those, when you have a good friend that says, if I'm not married by 40, I'll marry you. So it's kind of like a milestone, so it's kind of like a backup plan. Okay, so your soul says, if I haven't done this by this point, here, you have permission to do this.
That's funny, but yes. It is, it's a backup plan. So, a path switch is part of the backup plan. There are milestones about where you need to go. So I was more conscious, or I should say more spiritually minded about what they're asking, and it was really my soul that was asking. So I go, okay, I don't want to do it. And I try to ignore it like they can't see me. My soul's with me every time I turn around. But, oh, they're not looking. That's fine.
That was like me running from my call to ministry. It's like, I can hide under a rock, but guess what? God made the rocks.
That's funny.
Oh, look, it's like the
shell game.
The shell game. Oh, look,
Yeah,
there,
the shell game. That is funny.
There.
So finally I said, all right, okay. And so I went, they says, don't come to or your friend's house. Go, you need to stop going. I said, okay. So the next month rolls around. Oh, I gotta go back and explain. So here comes the excuses and logical reasonings. So then I went, and it wasn't bad. See, I didn't explode. Well, the next month come, and I gave another excuses and reasonings, and I went back again. At this point, I had taken a friend, and God's like, seriously? So then my friend says, wow, that's just strange. Did you see how she treated you? What? No, I don't have no idea what you're talking about. And literally, I had not seen it. I had trained myself so well not to see it. And okay, fine. So then the third time I went back, and I had my other friend with me, and literally my friend was getting angry. She was like being jealous and sabotaging, and then all of a sudden I go, why is this happening? Simply put, you didn't listen the first few times. You said that you needed a boost, and what I did as a kid is that when we were told that, oh, we're going to be moving, and I did not want to leave my friends, so I made enemies of my friends, and then find out that we just moved around the corner. And that means I had to go back to school and see these people and face the fact that I sabotaged the friendship. So in a way, I was creating my friend to sabotage me. It was a self-sabotage. And the question was remaining, do you want the path switch to the point where you and your friend completely break up, never to speak ever again? I said, no, I don't want to do that route. Okay then, stop coming. Well, this is the problem. We have trained ourselves that we want certainty, evidence. Why, Jen?
Because that's our human mindset saying, I want to know. I want it. It's control of the situation that if I don't, there's that emotional part of us, and I'm speaking personally from my experience, that if I don't have that control over the situation, I don't know what's going to happen.
Why do we need control?
It's
About survival.
that it's survival and that uncertainty, and about what the emotional state, what that emotional part of us does in uncertain times.
Yes, because one of the things that we have to explain is that the limbic system, I should say the limbic brain, is that emotional brain. And when it was processing the fight, flight, freeze, and it was processing it out. And then eventually too much stress of fight, flight, freeze continued to be so overwhelming that it was just, let's just imagine there are a lot of workers in your head. There wasn't enough employees. There's like one employee to go through all the filing and sorting and cleaning, and it just got so much that it just then the house or your brain starts to become a hoarding. It becomes overflowing. Stuff didn't get thrown away.
It's like the skeleton crew overnight, laid out over a number of years.
Yes.
It can only do so much.
And so it became overwhelming, and so then what happens is when we don't process it out, then it becomes stored, and then it starts to pile up and stink, and this is one of the things that happen in our brain. So when it comes to path switching, we basically register into that limbic part of our brain, and we go, oh, okay, so we need our logical reasonings and our excuses, and because when we don't feel safe, then we have to hurry up and find some way to be safe.
It's like the wingman.
Explain.
Of your, or the buddy system, that those logical reasonings and that kind of thing kind of become your wingman, because you have a buddy system to go through to actually get you through those situations and kind of help you out when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.